Do you want to know why my jaw makes that noise every time I open it to talk, to eat, anything? Do you want to know why I have an actual chunk missing out of my chest? Well, then stay tuned because I'm going to tell you what happened. This is a story about a fight that would change my perspective forever. Um, this was probably almost 10 years ago. I had spent about a year or so in the county jail awaiting my sentence, which would eventually be 10 years for two armed robberies. After I got sentenced to 10 years, I got sent down the road, they call it, to prison, state prison. And going to prison, I knew that there was going to be a big difference. Just because my entire time in the county jail, that's what had been hammered into me by everyone else. County jail, I guess you could look at it as the little leagues. And once you get to prison, that's the big leagues. Things were going to change. And that's just what I was told, and that's what I had in my mind going to prison. And so I was maybe 22, 23, and I arrived at my first state prison to serve my 10-year sentence. I didn't know what I was going to do for money, for food, how to feed myself. I didn't know how to do anything. I wasn't really from the streets. I didn't know how to hustle. I didn't know how to really make something out of nothing. I didn't have those skills. I didn't have those street smarts. And I didn't know what I was going to do. But I ran across a guy, I think his name was Dodo. And he was a high-ranked blood at the time who was at the same prison I was at when I got there. And somehow or another, we kind of clicked. He liked me. And Dodo was known to get a lot of money on this prison yard. He knew how to hustle. And he hustled in several different ways, and he got a lot of money. And he kind of threw me a bone. He knew I was kind of lost and didn't know what to do, but whatever it was, I was ready to do something. And he started me out with some tobacco. He had some tobacco, and he gave me a bag of it, and he said, just start selling these, make bags, break this down into bags and start selling $5 bags of loose tobacco to these other inmates. And he wanted me to just get food. Now, you can sell an amount of this tobacco for, a Cash App. Inmates use Cash App a lot, or have your people put money on this person's account for however much tobacco. But with what he gave me, he said, I just want this to be my source of food. Whatever you sell to these inmates, I want them to give you food. And so I know, hey, I got this much food coming from you. And that's how he would eat. And in exchange, he would let me keep a certain amount, a certain percentage of this food, whatever I sold. That's a way that I could make money and I could feed myself. So I was like, hey, let's do it. So for the next few days, a week, that's what I did. I made a little money here and there, made a little food, gave him what he was supposed to get, and I kept what I was supposed to get. And that was going fine. Some people had the money. By money, I mean food. Different pieces of food, different food items go for different dollar amounts or cent amounts, 50 cents, $1, $5, whatever. So, I kept what I was supposed to keep in food, and that was the way that I was feeding myself, and it was going fine. Some people had it right then and would just exchange the food right then for the tobacco, and some people didn't have it right then. And I asked him, hey, is it okay? Some people want the tobacco now, and then when the next commissary day comes around, they'll pay me what they're supposed to pay me. And I knew this was risky. I'd been in the county jail for a while, so I had already learned, this is a risky thing to do. But, it's his stuff, so I asked him, hey, is it cool to do that? And he said, yeah, if you think that this person is trustworthy to pay you what they owe you, then yes. I mean, it's all you. You handle it. I just want what I'm supposed to get from you. So I'm like, okay. So there's one guy, he was in the bunk next to me, and his name was Blackjack. And Blackjack had been around for about 8 years. He was a black guy. He was a little shorter than me, but he was very dark, and he had a very low, raspy voice like this. And but he was a young guy too, kind of like me, but maybe a year or so older. maybe about 24, 25. But blackjack had been around for a while, and he didn't get a lot of money, but he did get some money from what I had seen. So he would come. He borrowed a little bit of tobacco from me, and I think he only owed me. I think he got to where he owed me about $12. $12 worth of food. But at the end of the day, it's not much, but you do owe it to me, and I have to give some of that to the guy that I'm supposed to pay. So I gave it a week, and that was when he was supposed to pay me, after about a week. And so a week goes by, and the next commissary day rolls around, and he gets his food. And, I don't, me being me, I don't want to, as soon as you come back with your food, I don't want to be all in your face. Like, hey, you got that? You got what you owe me? Like that, I'm not that disrespectful, because I wouldn't want someone doing that to me. If I had every intention of paying you, give me 10 minutes to get my stuff sorted out, and whatever, I'm going to get to keep some of this probably, and I'm going to put that away in my locker, and let me straighten up and organize my locker full of food and what I bought and what's mine, and just give me a second, buddy, and I'll bring you what I owe you. Get out of my face. That's how I thought about it. So how I would want to be dealt with, that's how I dealt with him. And so I didn't immediately rush him and get all in his face for some food. And, I said he'll come to me when he's ready. But, the minutes and the hours go by, and he doesn't come to me. And, I'm wondering what's going on. It's been plenty of time, and I see you kind of just sitting around doing nothing. Hey, what's going on? Are you going to bring me what you're supposed to bring me? And I think the straw that broke my back was when I saw him. He had just about, it looked, he had a bundle of food, some honey buns, some soups and stuff, and it looked to be just about the amount, like it would add up to the amount he owed me. And I'm like, see, you've been worrying about nothing, jumpsuit. He's got your stuff right there. He's going to bring it to you any minute. And I saw him get up with all that stuff, and I'm like, here he comes. And he goes the opposite direction, and he goes to some big guy, and who's known to also sell tobacco and other drugs, and he pays him. And I'm like, man, what's going on? Maybe did he forget? I hope not. But deep down, I said, hey, listen, the reality is I was 22. These days I'm 6 foot, I'm 215, 220 pounds. I'm a little rough around the edges, but back then I was, I'm 31 years old now. Back then I was just, 22, maybe 23. And I was a skinny guy, maybe 140 pounds. Didn't have a lot of muscle on me, didn't have a lot of weight on me. And I, by all means, I was not a scary or intimidating, by my looks. I was not very intimidating at all. And so, I knew deep down that he could very well be thinking, I don't got to pay this guy. What's he going to do? And I didn't like that. And I had just gotten to prison, and I'm like, you can't, in my mind, I'm like, I have to show everybody that, you can't push me around, and you can't do this to me. I'm not going to let you get away with this. And I got to make a name for myself, because I'm in a new world now, and I'm going to be here for the next 10 years. And if you let people, if I don't confront this guy about paying me, nobody's ever going to pay me. I'm always going to get pushed around, and I wasn't going to do the next decade of my life that way. I just wasn't. So, I knew all that, and I had that in my mind, and so I approached him hoping that maybe he just forgot. Maybe I'd go up to him and be like, hey, and he'd be like, oh, man, I'm glad you reminded me, man. Here you go. That's what I was hoping, but it didn't go that way. So I approach him, and I say, hey, man. I was like, you still gonna give me that? And before I can even finish, he cuts me off, and he's super aggressive. Got a lot of oomph in his response, and he cuts me off, and he goes, "Hey, what? What? Am I what? Am I gonna give you that $12 I owe you? Is that what you come to ask me about?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I came to ask you about." And he's like, yeah, I am going to give you that $12. Now, how about you get out my face and quit bothering me about that $12? I'll give it to you when I'm good and ready. So you better be glad that I'm even going to give it to you, because I could just take you over there in that bathroom and wear your ass out. And I mean, at this point, he's like this close to my face. And, I listen. I'm by no means. I'm not the toughest. I'm not the roughest. I'm not the most feared guy at all. Anywhere, much less prison. So, I'm not saying I was that guy, but to be honest and just to tell you the truth, I felt that I had something to prove, and I haven't had any opportunity come my way that would allow me to prove that yet. It's what anyone would think. I mean, if you go to prison, hey, someone's going to try you, and the first time somebody tries you and somebody tests you, man, you better pass that test, or you're going to get pushed around. I mean, I had the same thought that anyone else, I imagine, would have. And truth be told, I was waiting on this, and I wasn't. A little background. I mean, in the county jail, I fought a lot. I fought a lot of guys, and I honestly, just about all of them, I won. But if I'm also being honest, those guys that I beat, they weren't seasoned, dangerous convicts. They were just, they just weren't. So I'm not gonna glamorize this as if I just beat these dangerous people, and I was just running through them. They weren't that dangerous, but I was beating them. And so point of that is it did kind of give me a lot of confidence. And I was, I felt like, hey, I can handle my own, I can do a little something if we got to fight. And that's how I was feeling in this moment. But I was soon going to find out that this was in fact a whole nother game. But so I wasn't scared of, you're talking about you're going to take me in this bathroom and wear me out. I'm not scared of that. I mean, let's do it. I felt like, hey, you might get a surprise yourself, buddy, and you might get wore out. And so I remember kind of smiling a little bit because I know that he thought that I was going to be very scared of what he was saying. And I said, well, then let's go in the bathroom. And I was just smiling. I was like, let's go then. Show me how you're going to do that. And I was very confident. And, so we go into the he's like, okay. And he leads the way and we go into this bathroom. So as we go into this bathroom, we go all the way to the back because there's in the front part, there's a line of sinks. And then there's a wall that separates the sink section from the showers. And then there's another wall behind the showers that separate the showers from the urinals all the way in the back. And so all the way in the back is where people usually went to do anything you're not supposed to do because it was the furthest out of sight. Smoke, whatever, fight, all that. So we go all the way to the back. And I'm going first, and I turn the corner and go to the back. I turn around, and he comes into the back section, and he kind of just leans up against the wall with his arms folded like this. He's just kind of looking at me, and he's leaned back against this wall real casual, and he's got this smirk on his face, and it's this smirk that just says, this is dumb, this is stupid, this is pointless. I don't even know why I'm back here because we both know you are not going to do anything. I knew that's how he really felt about me, and I resented that because I would do something. I would. I'm not the best fighter, but I will do something. I'm not going to let you just do me like this, in prison. And that's how I felt. So I resented that. I didn't like that look he had on his face, and so he wasn't going to come towards me. He's leaning back against this wall. So I say, hey, let's go. And I walk towards him, and I kind of start to put my hands up. And as I get close to him and I'm bringing my hands up, man, he moved so fast. And he hits me right in the face. Boom. Hits me hard and quick, and I saw green, like a green flash for a minute. He hit me hard, I'm telling you, and he hit me right in the jaw, and that's why my jaw, to this day, it still makes this noise every time I open it. That was 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago, and it's still to this day. It'll probably make that noise the rest of its life. But he hit me hard, but I didn't go down. But I did see green for a second. And I shook back, and I came back to the moment. And I hit him back with a good 1-2 piece. Boom, boom. I hit him. And his head kind of went back a little bit, and I see his eyes roll back just for a quick second. I didn't knock him out, but they rolled back just for a second. He kind of and like I had bopped him too, and he came back just like he did to me. So he came back like I came back. So I feel like I let him know, hey, I'm here too, and I felt good about that. But I hit him, boom, boom, and he shook back, and I want to rush in now, and so I lunged toward him after I had hit him, and as I go towards him, he lunges towards me, and he spreads his arms out and he wraps up with me. And he wraps his arms around me tight. He's not letting go, and he's a little shorter than me, so his head's right about here. And I just feel him open his mouth and sink his teeth in to my chest. And I mean, he is latched on. I had not felt a worse pain in my life before that point, because I mean, he had his teeth dug into my skin, and it just felt like a knife going into my skin, real constant and slow, because there's this constant bite pressure from his teeth in his mouth, and he's just latched on there, so it's like a constant knife going in your chest. I just remember that's really how it felt in that moment. So obviously I'm in pain, and the only thing I can think of is just this natural reflex. I take my thumbs, because his face is right here. I'm like looking down at his face, and his mouth is latched onto my chest, and I just take my thumbs like this, and I got my hands around his head, and I stick my thumbs into his eyes, and I'm pushing as hard as I can, and I know it's got to hurt, but he's staying. He's got that bite just hooked in, and he's trying to stay, and I'm literally, it gets to where I had to peel. Like centimeter by centimeter, I'm peeling his face off of my chest, and I can feel his teeth scraping. So when I show you this mark, I'm going to show you here in just a second. I'm going to put some footage up, but that's why it's not just a ring of where this bite was, but as I was pushing it off, his teeth were like losing, how much skin it had between it. So it's just being pried off, and it's just scrapes the whole way. So it really just kind of peeled the skin off all the way as the skin is coming loose from it. So and right as he probably had just the tiniest bit of skin left between his teeth, I almost had him pried off. And as soon as I had him pried off, getting bit like that, it makes you so mad. And I just knew in my head, as soon as I get him pried off, I am gonna go to work on him. And he had the tiniest bit left of skin between his teeth, and I guess he knew. He predicted what I was thinking, and right before I had him all the way peeled off, he lets go. He releases me from his bite and immediately drops down and tries to grab my legs, and I guess pick me up and slam me onto the ground. He tried to hurry up and just get a sneak attack in there. But he didn't know that I used to wrestle in high school. And as soon as he dropped down, I just had another reflex. And I was much taller. I'm a real tall, lanky guy, especially before I gained all this weight. So as soon as I felt him drop down and grab around my knees, I sprawled out and I kicked my legs out behind me, and he just couldn't, I just basically fell down, body slam on top of him. And when I did, I kind of just pushed him over, and I had a full mount on him to where I was basically sitting on his stomach, sitting on his chest. And he had his arms up like this, trying to cover his face. And at that point, I was just boom, boom, boom. So I was hitting him, and I was just repeatedly hitting him and hitting him and hitting him. And until the point where everyone had to come in and like, that's enough. And they broke it up and they pulled me off of him. And so at that point, I felt like I won. I felt victory. I beat this guy. But that feeling didn't last. When he got up, he immediately, as he exited the bathroom and back into the main common area of the cell block where all the other inmates were, who were of course aware of what just happened. It's kind of hard not to know when all that noise is happening. So he left out of the bathroom, and you would have never thought he lost. You would have never thought he just got beat. I mean, I was on top of him, and he wouldn't have been able to get up, and I could have just punched until my arms gave out. And that's what I did for a while until they finally, the only reason people stepped in is because it's clear, hey, This scenario isn't going to change. This guy's getting beat. You got him. All right, let's it's time to call it quits. And that's what I thought. But he gets up and he just conducts himself in this way that you would have thought he just won. You would have never thought he lost. He's going out there. His energy is high. His spirit is up. He's on fire, and he's still barking. He's talking shit. And he's saying, man, whatever I did to him was nothing. He said, man, I didn't feel that. Nothing you did even made a dent in me. He said, look at yourself. Look down at yourself. He's talking back to me in front of everybody. And I looked down, and I've got blood all on my T-shirt from where he was biting me. And he said, look at yourself. And he said, yeah, that's going to be there forever. He didn't even know this noise, this thing with my jaw, that would also probably be there forever. He didn't even know that. But what he did know is what he saw. This right here, he knew this was going to be here forever. And 10 years later, it's still here. He said, every time you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror and you see that on your chest, I want you to remember Blackjack did that to you. He said, whatever you did to me just now, I'll forget about it by tomorrow. But every morning you wake up and you look at that mark on your chest, I want you to remember I did that to you. And he just continued on like that. He just continued on. No matter the beating I just gave him, it didn't faze him. And he probably would have took more. He was ready for more. And that's when I really realized the difference and, what these convicts go through and what they've been through and what it does to you and what it turns you into. And while, there's a lot of ways to look at that in a bad light, as far as what it does to you and what it turns you into, I feel like there's a lot of lessons to be learned from it. And I didn't tell you this story to make you think I'm some big tough guy. I didn't tell you this story to necessarily shock and awe you. I tell you this story because it taught me something, and I think it could teach you something. People, your job, your situations, life in general, it may leave some lumps on your head. It may bruise you. It may bang you up. But that doesn't mean it has to beat you. As long as your spirit is strong and your energy is high, you can still come out from a beating a winner. The last thing I like to leave you with, nothing else from this story, take a page from Blackjack's book. No matter the kind of beating life gives you and puts you through, make sure you leave a mark.